Hello, and welcome to the Breath Space Contemplative Practices. I'm Brad S. Lichtenstein. This particular practice, or guided meditation, you're about to hear is one of many I use with patients and students alike. I invite you to think of these as explorations, a process of discovery. Each of these practices have been studied and shown to have a variety of physiological, neurological, and psychological effects. However, for our purposes here, consider these experiments, ways to turn inward and learn more about yourself. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear from you. So now let's begin. In this session, I will be leading you through a breath inquiry, a guided process to help you gain more awareness about your current way of breathing. Before we can ever bring about change in our life, we must become aware of what we are currently doing. The breath inquiry is a meditation of sorts to help you tune into your current habitual pattern of breathing. You might ask yourself, what's so important about the breathing anyway? Did you know that on average most people breathe about 14 to 18 breaths per minute? Now that translates to greater than 20 to 24,000 breaths per day, or over 7 million breaths per year. That equates to moving more than 10,000 gallons of air in and out of the lungs each day. At 16 breaths per minute, that equates to 35 pounds of air daily, which is 6 times the weight of our food intake. Many of us are so concerned about what we put into our bodies regarding food and fluids. But do we ever stop and consider how we allow air into our bodies? How we breathe can have a huge impact on our physical, mental, and psycho-spiritual health. I think of it this way. How we breathe, the way we breathe, directly reflects how we approach life. If we hold our breath, we engage in life in a cautious and tight manner. If we fail to breathe in, we cannot take in joy, pleasure. In essence, we cannot take in life. So to begin the process, I believe it is best to do this inquiry while seated, since the majority of our day is spent in an upright posture. While you can do this lying down, and that will provide you with some useful information, I recommend that you first become skilled at discovering how you breathe while seated or standing. When you start this inquiry, you might want to place one hand on your chest or sternum and the other on your belly or lowest ribs on your side. As we continue, you can allow your hands to drop to your sides or rest on your lap. While exploring your breath, allow the breath to flow normally, which means without effort or force, and reflect on the questions I ask. I will be repeating these questions several times in various order, so you can really discover your spontaneous and honest breath. You might find that the breath changes as we go through this inquiry, and that's okay. Just notice. So let's begin. Starting with 3 bells to call us to this moment. So, sitting in an upright posture that you can maintain without extra muscular engagement. You might want to place one hand on your chest and one on your belly or lower ribs. The first set of questions is about location or placement. Now, this inquiry is not about relaxation. It's about self-discovery. As you simply observe or watch the next breath, notice which part of the body or torso moves first. I also like to say which part of the body or torso breathes first. Simply observing which part of the body or torso moves or breathes first. See if on the next breath you can see where the breath begins. Which part of the body moves or breathes first? As you continue to soften into this inquiry, you might notice the location shifts over time. Again, which part of the body or torso moves or breathes first? Now, its sister or companion question is which part of the body or torso moves or breathes most? Is it different? So which part of the body or torso moves first? And which part of the body or torso moves most? As you're focusing on the location, notice, are you breathing through your nose or your mouth? Remember, the breathing inquiry is not about making something happen or altering or changing the breath in any way. It's just about observing. And observing what is happening at this present moment. Which part of the body breathes first? Which part of the body breathes most? Now, the next set of questions is about the rate of the breath. I don't want you to count the breath. I want you to simply get a sense of how fast or slow the rate of your breathing is right now. Furthermore, with the rate, observe the length of inhale and exhale. What is the ratio? Is inhale longer? Is exhale longer? Are they the same? What is the rate of this breath, of this inhalation and exhalation? Every breath may be different. We're observing patterns and trends. Connected with the rate, notice if there's any gaps or pauses. A gap happens midstream. In the middle of an inhale or in the middle of an exhale, you might find a little. A pause happens at the end of either inhale or exhale. What's the rate of this breath? What's the rate of inhale and exhale? And are there any gaps or pauses? Going back to our first two questions, what part of the body now breathes first? What part of the body now breathes most? Did it change? The next question is about volume or depth. When I speak of volume or depth, I'm referring to the amount of air. Many people say it was a deep breath or a shallow breath, and they refer to their torso or the belly. Here I'm saying, how much air are you taking in? Is it a large amount of air? Is it small? Does it change? Do you breathe at a steady rate and volume for 4, 5, 6 breaths? And then it's followed by a huge inhale? Do you notice that the inhale might be longer and larger, and the exhale is shorter and shallower? What's the volume of this next breath? What breathes first? What breathes most? What's the rate? And is there any gaps or pauses? What's the volume? And now, what's the quality of this breath? Is there a word that comes to mind as far as the physical quality? Is there a word that comes to mind for the emotional quality? Is the way you're breathing right now have a particular mood or feeling related to it? Physically, does it seem like it's smooth or staccato? Do you find that it's punctuated by gaps, pauses, yawns, or sighs? Does the inhale flow into the exhale, flows into the inhale? When being present with this breath, is it a breath you might say is calm and centered, irritated and agitated, on guard and tight? Does it feel incomplete and insufficient? Notice, too, the sound of the breath. Is it silent, inaudible? Or do you find that there's a lot of noise with breathing? If you were to view someone breathing the way that you're currently breathing, what would you think about that person? Would you say they're balanced and calm? Stressed out and anxious? Exhausted and weary? And finally, let's turn towards our posture. Again, I'm not asking you to relax. I'm not asking you to unwind or change, but scanning your body from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes. Is there any extra muscular effort, muscular contraction that is preventing or inhibiting free flowing breath? Notice your jaw, your lips, and your tongue. Are your shoulders helping out in the breath? Are you holding your belly firmly, or is it soft and expansive? What's often overlooked is the thighs and the groin, the buttocks. How are you holding them, and how is their state impacting your breathing? Simply observing. To just repeat these questions again. Notice what breathes first and what breathes most. Is it different than when we started? Are you breathing through your nose or your mouth? What's the rate of the breath? The rate in general and the inhale to exhale ratio. Are there any gaps or pauses? What's the volume of this breath? Do you find that it's getting deeper, shallower? Does it change every other breath? What's the physical quality to this breath? Hurried, hastened, rushed, staccato, smooth, easy? What's the emotional tone to this breath? And scanning the body, is there any muscular contraction that's preventing free flowing breath? In a moment, you're going to hear 3 bells calling you back into the room, back into your surroundings. This breath inquiry is simply an observation and exploration. Without trying to make anything happen, simply find yourself throughout the day turning in, tuning in, and observing how you're breathing. Sitting, standing, walking. What do you learn more about yourself by practicing this breath inquiry? As you slowly reorient back into the room, notice your breathing now and what has changed. As I said in the beginning, the breath inquiry is just the first step in the process. It helps us become aware of what our habitual patterns are. In order for us to make changes in our life, we must know what is happening now. So I appreciate you listening to this breath inquiry, and hopefully it can be the first step in a life of breathing with ease. Thank you very much, and go gently, knowing your goodness.